like a paladin's aura in that way when you're like, everybody group up, we need some resistances.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
And then the DM's like, just kidding, the red dragon's a poison dragon this round. Idiots all standing in a 10-foot circle.
Welcome to Monsters Multiclass, your Dungeons & Dragons fix. I'm Eliotti.
I'm Jared Bornagle.
And I'm Will Meldon.
And on this episode, we are doing the Barbarian Retrospective, part of our Retrospective series, where we go back. Yeah, we've done a handful now. I'm completely blanking on which ones. There's a playlist.
Ranger, monk, sorcerer, bard.
That sounds right. Yeah, good job. I'll link to the playlist. That'll be at the top. Where we take a look back at when 5th edition came out. What was this class? What were they trying to accomplish with it? What's its role that it's played? What's its world building implications? How well do the mechanics mesh up with it? And also, how well did they mechanically play? In addition, what do the subclasses say flavor-wise about it? And then we go through kind of each release and which changes the class. And what did they stick true to what the Barbarian was? Are they changing it up? Things like that. Well, also, as mechanics discussions throughout, except for when we get to Tasha's, because each one of those got their own dedicated episode. Those will be a little quicker. So, Barbarians, what the heck's a barbarian, guys?
Yeah, I mean, to me, beyond the D&D description of a fighter out in the wilds and with a tribe, the key factor that makes a barbarian is having unmatched strength that can rise to meet just about any challenge. I mean, that is like a consistent theme you see with barbarians. Looking at some examples in classic fantasy or even more modern fantasy, I don't know, whatever combination you want to say. Kratos from I think Greek mythology, but as you know, God of War is like a very classic barbarian style.
Yeah.
He-Man is actually a spot on barbarian. The obvious Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't even know that needs said.
Most Arnold Schwarzenegger characters.
Every drawing by Frank Franzetta.
I do not know.
I know he did Batman comics at one point, right?
Yeah, he was known for like every single drawing of the people he draws. Everyone, men and women, just muscular and wearing like a tissue for clothing and like fighting a tiger.
Yeah, I just pulled him up. Okay. Yep.
I love that stuff.
Yeah. So, I am surprised you jumped to strength to meet the occasion first, because it's rage. It's harnessing their anger.
That's D&D's idea.
Okay.
That's
fair.
Yeah,
I guess
that is 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a barbarian, going back to, the classic example and everything, was used just as outsider and was used as a derogatory term for people, and yes, was kind of viewed as uncivilized. But at no point in that conversation, or even just looking at barbarians across the world, is rage necessary or anger necessary to be a barbarian.
Okay, that's fair. Outside of D&D, sure.
Yes.
But then when they made them in D&D, that is at its core. Using their anger to increase their battle prowess, be able to shrug off hits, and just be more of a threat on the battlefield. The unbridled, yet harnessed rage. It's kind of a weird juxtaposition there.
Yeah, and something that D&D focuses on a lot, especially looking at the player's handbook, is that idea of it being very tribal as well.
Yes.
I don't know. I was trying to think back. All of the barbarians that have been at our table have played up that aspect. But when we talk about it from a multi-class perspective, we've brought up a ton of different ideas of, the mob boss, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde style of anger or whatever, having a different side to somebody. But then we like get it at the table and everybody's like, I want to play a classic barbarian, because it is a fun trope.
It is. It's a good trope, fun trope to play. Yeah, the player handbook tries to explain it as barbarians, so the ones who are able to harness the rage, see civilization as stifling and confining to them, where their civilization is not going to accept them. It's not going to accept these bursts of rage and raw emotion they unleash onto the world. And so they are more comfortable in the wilds, because they themselves are wild, is basically what it tries to say. But that's really easy to strip away and say, no, they're good just being angry people in society.
Maybe they're mad just about society, but in like a really kind of hipsterish way.
Right?
Yeah.
There is, where was that line? Yeah, so for some, the rage springs from communion with fierce animal spirits. Others draw from a roiling reservoir of anger at the world full of pain.
Oh yeah,
So they're
that's
angsty,
yeah.
actually. They're more, yeah. I don't know if hipsters it. I call them more angsty.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
One
And also
last
the
oh, go ahead.
the distinction is also important. This is something you can think about with fighters as well. Like with fighters, anyone who picks up a sword is not a fighter in the class sense. Barbarians the same. Anybody who like lives in like a tribe on the wildlands and in the wilds and is like good with a hand axe is not necessarily a barbarian. These are ones where they are true threats and powerhouses on the battlefield and have harnessed to the art of using their rage and channeling that into their combat. That's what makes a barbarian over just somebody who lives in the wilds and can fight.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that with D&D, that is definitely like a just important distinction. And I don't know how often it's necessary to make the anger aspect part of your character, but it I like that idea of there being kind of the other side and them channeling this and not looking at anger as this even negative thing. It is a helpful tool, and I think actually a good example of that is in the recent God of War game, where that gets talked about a lot, where it's like anger can consume you and letting that control you can be a bad thing, but if you harness it, it's a tool that you can use to overcome great obstacles. And that's always a cool take.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of actually this more like 100%. I do not think this is what Wizards of the Coast was going for, but if kind of more modern, all feelings are valid. All
Yeah,
feelings have their place. They are automatic. Don't run from your feelings. Learn to manage them appropriately. And
yeah,
but
definitely
like
not what
they're
Wizards of
all
the Coast was
okay.
thinking.
Yeah, no, I don't think so at all. But it kind of does have that vibe. So that's the good. The barbarian who is just a really talented like psychologist or therapist, and it just come to accept the rage with it.
So yeah, I mean, that to me, that is the fantasy. I don't even know if there's more that needs said around them. I mean, they do bring up kind of a very carved out idea. It's not as ambiguous
Hmm.
as like the rogue or the ranger as we've talked about them in the past.
Right. Yeah, definitely within the player's handbook. And then the two subclasses kind of pigeonhole them further into certain things, but we'll get to those. We should talk about the base class
Sure.
a bit. And in terms of like, do the mechanics make that role play, that world building reality of what the barbarian is come to life? 100%.
Yes.
That's a no-brainer. Like this is like, yes, of course it does. You don't need us to tell you that. The very first thing they get is called rage, and they get harness the anger to hit things better and take more hits, and we get advantage on strength saving throws. There we go. I could talk. And like, yeah, of course that matches as well. But there's definitely some things that don't. I would say like unarmored defense. Like, because they can wear armor, they get proficiency in medium armor, and they have no negatives to doing so, right? Like their extra speed
Correct.
as long as it's not heavy armor, yeah. And it's like, okay, that has nothing to do with harnessing their anger. Just because someone's like lives like in a tribe in the wilds, does that mean they can't have armor?
Yeah, I guess
I
that
strongly
is.
disagree.
Okay, why's that?
I believe that the rage is embodied with this unarmored defense in the sense that your mind is not keeping up with what your body's doing essentially, and so it no longer matters. And to speak to the armor thing, that's why this is one of the features that really pigeonholes them into a tribe, because if you're not wearing armor, you're dumb. It's dumb to not wear armor if you can wear armor. But if you don't have a smith, you can't really make good armor. So that means you can't wear armor, so you have to learn how to go without, essentially.
Okay, that's fair. So unarmored defense leads into the kind of like live in the wilds, shun society aspect of them, not the rage
A
aspect of them.
little bit to the rage, a little tiny.
Little bit.
A little.
Okay.
I mean, I like that explanation to the rage as well. Just the idea kind of that it doesn't matter. Like it wouldn't help because you're not going to be using it too effectively. But without it, it doesn't slow you down. You're able to just go all out.
And it speaks
Right.
more to the flavor, like the unarmored defense, you get 10 plus your dex plus your con. Your con, in my idea, is that you're just taking the hit. You're just shrugging it off.
Sure,
Okay.
that's something that can be played up from the DM's perspective. Is that there are sometimes hits come across you, like a bludgeoning weapon that gets hit right into your shoulders, and your AC is that not hurting you. You're fine.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Yeah, the rage mechanic as a whole is, I mean, just great. And this is very much the core to the barbarian class, and going to be hugely influential on how you play the barbarian. It is limited how often they could do it, but they come back on a short rest, and it's very, very rare.
Long rest
No, it's
is
a
a long
long
rest.
rest. Oh
Yeah.
shit. Okay.
Yes.
Despite that, it still seems just really rare for barbarians to run out of rages. I just don't see that much.
How many times has it happened to you this campaign, Will?
A bunch, but it was interesting times. It was me having to re-rage in combat. I
Yeah.
think the rages are
Oh,
perfectly
okay.
tuned, but you can't
Yeah.
Yeah,
use them
they're
up.
interesting. They're on their own table, and they seem to be like, I don't know, not in line with proficiency. It's almost like they hover near proficiency. Like your proficiency bonus goes up at 13th level to 5, but then you get 5 rages at 12th level. So a lot of times they're right next to each other.
Yeah, they kind of they closely match proficiency bonus, but not perfectly. They go
I,
up a little
I
faster.
I do almost wonder if now, if things were just remade, because so many things usually are tied to proficiency bonus, if they would just, to get rid of a table, be like, yeah, you get him up to your proficiency bonus +1, and just call it a day there.
Yeah, that would make sense.
But yeah, I mean, so the rages, you're right. I think most of the time they don't go down. If at lower levels you're going to run out, you have less of them for one, but also you're more likely to hit 0 earlier, and hitting 0 in the middle of a fight means your rage goes away. And one of the things about barbarians is if they're not raging, they're kind of not doing a lot. Most of their class mechanics kind of rely on them raging at
Hmm.
most all times. Less so with the base class, but definitely with the subclasses.
For sure. Yeah, different things coming online when you're raging. Yeah. The other thing they get right away, also not right away. This is at second level, so very early on, which really defines the playstyle and matches well to Flavor's reckless attack. I think that's the one when they attack using strength, they could choose to give themselves advantage in every attack, melee weapon attack that turn, but then every attack against them has advantage. And again, that I think fits really, really well in that just kind of throwing danger to the wind, just the reckless rage abandon. I am just mad and trying to hit things, and I will deal with what happens to me. And it's always a choice on the barbarian's turn to do reckless attack or not. No, there's definitely
It is not a choice. You reckless attack.
no. You
No,
don't.
it's funny you say
No,
that.
I
It's
don't.
totally not
Yeah.
true.
I don't mean from a mechanical standpoint. Yes, you are correct.
Okay.
Mechanically, it is a choice, but from a choice perspective, there is a right one, and it is reckless attack. These statements make you so unhappy. That's why I make them.
Okay.
No, it's so
Sure.
interesting because I always do these things. It's like, oh no, you have to reckless attack. But in this campaign, it is like the tactical choice I make as a barbarian every round. Can I
Yes.
afford to get advantage against me on all attacks? That is a big question that requires a lot of context.
Yeah. I mean, how much damage is the enemy doing? Is it something that you want them to be attacking you, especially if they aren't doing, bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage, and you're not a barbarian, which we'll get to later. I mean, one of the biggest blind spots of rage is that you're not getting any damage resistance against different damage types that are outside of the normal physical.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, and yeah, and I
you
love
don't
that
want
it's
to attack
there.
recklessly against a fire elemental. That's all.
No. Yeah. And I always say it's something that just hits a lot harder than you hit. Um, and I love that it's there because it does. Barbarians can have kind of reputation of being a little dull, not many choices to make. You rage and you hit, but reckless attack is a choice you do need to make every single turn. And I wouldn't take that away from you because there are people who just say, "No, I just reckless attack every time," and I think that to me that would make them really, really boring. This tactical choice of reckless attacking or not adds an extra layer of interest in choices each turn, and I would hate to take that away from myself.
Yeah. No, I'm actually with you. I know I was joking before wild. And more importantly is when you are making the choice to reckless attack or not, it fits well with the flavor of them knowing when that they can let loose, when they can throw caution aside. It's not that they're like, yes, barbarians can be reckless, but it's that they know when to be reckless, which is weird. Calculated
Yeah.
recklessness.
Yeah, I would play it like that.
So moving forward until they get fast movement at 5th level, extra attack at 5th level. The only
Yeah.
thing of note with fast movement is you can't wear heavy armor, so that definitely
Which
seems
they don't
to
even have proficiency in anyways, so.
right. So that's only to prevent multi-classing weirdness, so not a big
Yeah.
deal. 7th level, they get feral instinct, where they can get advantage on initiative rolls, and if they are surprised at the beginning of combat, they can basically remove the surprise condition as long as they start their turn by entering into a rage.
This one I think actually is
Yeah.
worth noting a little bit because I think a lot of people don't realize that the rage mechanic is a little bit hard to get working. You can't
Mm,
pre-rage
yeah.
effectively because if you don't hit something, it goes down and it's gone. So
Or if you don't get hit. Either way.
yes, there are multiple ways to lose it. With Feral Instinct, this is another way to get the jump on them. And so you've got fast movement, you've got advantage on initiative. That means you are out of the gates probably first, and you're going to be able to close the gap and smash. Yeah,
Yep.
if you lose that first round, it's like now your resistance, it's not there. You might as well just be a shitty fighter.
Yeah, and
Yep.
you had that happen a couple. Yeah, we
Multiple times, yeah.
literally just got 7th level, I think, last session. So hopefully
Mhm.
this is less common. But you've had a lot of bad initiative rolls, and I see you sitting there. You're like, I just need to rage. Like I'm taking so much damage, and all of this would be
Yes.
halved. This is ridiculous. So it is. It's super
Yes.
important. Whether or not it fits the flavor, I mean, I don't see why not. It's I guess the only thing is the whole like if you're surprised you have to enter into a rage before doing anything else on that turn. Honestly, to me, that's like you're probably going to rage anyway, so I don't hate too much that it's a restriction. But at the same time, just I don't know. Let them just not be surprised and call it a day.
Sure. Yeah, in terms of all these base features, outside of rage, unarmed defense, which I was convinced on, a reckless attack, like they're all solid. Like I have no complaints against them mechanically, but from a like tying it into what a barbarian is and the role playing, meshing with mechanics, it's like they're all kind of dull.
Yeah,
They're just like modifications on earlier things or stuff everyone gets: ability score improvements, extra attack. You can move 10 feet faster. Feral instincts is like kind of right in the middle,
sure.
stuff like
And
that.
it
Then
gets
like
worse from there. I mean,
yeah,
brutal critical is such an important one for barbarians at 9th, 13th, and 17th level.
I
And while it is strong, it's not interesting.
no, I wouldn't even call it that strong or that important. It's so hard to do anything to increase your chance to crit or give you a more likely chance to crit.
Besides having
And it's like,
advantage.
yeah, that's like the one thing. Um, it's an extra 5% chance to crit basically if you're no.
No, that's not how that works.
No.
I don't know
That's
what the
no.
math is
I
on
don't.
it.
Yeah, that's you're right. You're right. It's not that bad. But it's an extra, whatever percent chance to crit, and it's still just such a randomness thing. You only when you roll a 20, and then they could do extra dice. It's like saying that's important to the character. It's something that you could go sessions without it coming up, and you have zero control over that. Or it finally does come up, and the thing only had 5 health anyway, so it was completely wasted. It's
Still worth it.
absolutely happened. Yeah, like it's fun to roll the dice and go, I did 30 damage, so cool. But it's
Yeah, no, fuck
It's
you. I
true.
rolled 60
mechanically,
12s.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And the fact that we're at 9th level and we have not seen a single ability that is outside of combat is one of my
Yep,
biggest issues with barbarians. And again, it
100%.
does not change going forward here. Relentless rage at 11th is you can keep raging even when you hit to go to 0. You just have to make a DC 10 con saving throw. If you succeed, you drop to 1 HP instead. And then that increases by 5 every time you drop to 0. So, okay,
It,
great. You're still harder to kill, but this is in combat only. I really don't think that's a good 11th level ability at all. Actually, that's a really bad 11th level ability when that's usually a huge power increase for the other classes, and this is
yeah.
not that. It's a hey, you can keep playing. Um, but it's like we're not seeing anything that's like, how do I interact with this world that isn't just smashing stuff? And to me, that's pigeonholing barbarians so much. And the player's
Sure.
handbook has such a hard time getting its head out of its ass for that.
Sure. Relentlessly, so I mean, I think that's better than you're giving it credit for. Being able to keep fighting when you hit zero. That is
Yeah,
kind of cool. That was the other one I was gonna say, where I think it's actually kind of like a bit more flavorful
sure.
than the rest, and it's mechanically is kind of pretty great.
Let
Like
me
you're
throw
gonna
this
have
at you real
advantage on
quick.
con saves.
Why do
Go
you
on,
have advantage on Constitution saves?
because barbarians get that
No, they get
strength
advantage
and
on strength
constitution.
saving throws. Where's you get it on Constitution too in raging?
No, no, no. Oh, I'm sorry. They're proficient. I misspoke.
Yes.
I meant they're
Okay.
proficient in con saves. Thanks. Yeah. Um, and it starts with a DC 10. And then every time you succeed, it just goes DC 11, DC 12, DC
No, no,
13. You're
no.
going to pass a
DC
lot of
increases
these.
by 5.
Oh, okay. I'm misunderstanding this. Okay. So you'll probably get one or two out of it. But I
Yeah.
guess every instance of multi attack, you're right, makes you re-roll. If you have 3 goblins around you poking you with little sticks, which at level 11, I think would be beyond that. But it's still just 1 damage getting through. Okay.
Yeah. That's why I'm not
Yeah,
super impressed
yeah,
with
yeah,
it.
yeah. Okay. That's all good points.
So in the same way that when brutal critical comes up and the thing only has 5 HP left, it's like relentless rage is only exciting when you have the perfect scenario where it's the last hit that they have and you succeed your Constitution saving throw, and then your life cleric bumps you up 20 HP and you can go a little bit longer. Otherwise, it's like, all right, next hit I'm going down, so get ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. It's going to be a lot more situational then. And then you have to finish a short or long rest for that DC to reset. So in even future combats, it's still going to be higher. And that's good. I could see that being forgotten a lot too.
Yeah.
That's kind of just annoying bookkeeping. Okay. All right. All right.
So
Good
then
to
we move
convince
on
me.
to that persistent rage. Beginning at 15th level, your rage is so fierce it ends early only if you fall unconscious or if you choose to end it. So this just gets rid of all of the annoying ways that rage can end. 15th level is a long time to wait for that.
Yeah. And also, I don't see rages ending because they didn't hit or they didn't get hit very
And it's even like
often.
just
Barbarians are
making an
really
attack,
good
right?
at yeah, just make an attack or take damage. And I think that's I guess we can literally just
I
scroll
know,
through
right?
it.
It's
Okay, your
stuns and
rage.
stuff. Stuns will get you.
That's a good point. That's a good
Okay.
point.
Yeah, if you haven't if you're knocked unconscious or if your turn ends and you haven't attacked a hostile creature since your last turn, so you basically have 2 turns, or taken
No,
damage
I
since
don't
then.
think so.
Yes, it says since your last turn. So base you could skip a turn of like doing nothing, and then if you hit something the next turn, you're okay.
It's confusing.
Since
And
your last turn. Yeah.
one thing, one thing that is true is if you rage round 1 and do nothing, it's gone.
Right, because last round you didn't make an attack or take damage. Unless you get hit,
Okay.
in which case, yeah, okay, great, you're fine. But
Right.
that does kind of determine what you do your first turn. If you have other abilities that maybe take an action to initiate, which barbarians don't get anything in their classes for that, but I don't know, it limits you. Either way, persistent rage, the important thing here being at 15th level is just, to me, seems way too long to wait for something that, as mentioned, doesn't come up super often. And at this point, you've got enough rages to really not care that much about one dropping.
Yeah. All right, but then the capstone. The capstone's really cool. I know we never see it. Like no one ever gets to 20, but I love the barbarian capstone. At 20th, you embody the power of the wilds. Your strength and con increase by 4. The maximum can now be 24. There's it is so rare to be able to boost your stats above 20, and I just love that the barbarians can do it. And that's essentially a +2 in each, which is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of extra health. That's an extra 40 HP just right out the
Jeez,
gate.
yeah,
And
yeah.
attack bonus
Even if
here.
it's not a 20, even if you just had con at 16 and gets up to 20,
Yeah.
if you're not taking
Which,
advantage of the fact that they can break it, which is still, I mean, that's reasonable. That's fine. It's yeah, that's still extra 40 health, and then
yeah.
your strength's probably going to be a 20 because that's something you just focus on and
Yeah,
get
looking
a
at like
24 strength, like a plus. That's +7 at that point.
yep,
Like
and
your
then plus your
modifier is
proficiency on
+7.
everything, so you'll have
Yeah,
basically plus 13 to hit base. without any weapons or anything, plus 13 on your
Yeah.
strength saving throws with advantage most of the time.
Yep. Your rage damage is +4, so your strength is 7 +4, so +11 damage plus anything else you got going on.
It's
It's so
silly.
cool. I just like it. Though it's not super flavorful. That I will knock that against it. It's like these two numbers that abstract general ideas about your character bump up and give you more abstracted numbers to help you in these abstracted health and
Yeah, I
to
guess
hit bonuses. It's just like, okay,
maybe I'll get flack for this, but I wouldn't mind if there was like a 11th level primal champion that was your scores increased by 2, your maximum for those goes to 22, and then the
okay,
level 20 is, and now it goes up another 2 up to 24, and you get something else, something a little more flavorful included.
sure.
The other capstone is
That'd be cool.
unlimited rages.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
You're right.
That's kind of like the unofficial listed one
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it doesn't call it anywhere except for on the table. Yeah,
Right.
rated,
Yeah.
you get 6 per long rest or that unlimited, which is just silly.
Yeah, at that point,
I don't know what
you
you're gonna
have-
do with them all. I mean, 6 is usually enough, but
with the persistent rage, you just rage all day. Just
yeah.
rage all day.
yeah.
I wake up mad. I go to sleep madder. I guess if you fall unconscious, it does go away. So, but yeah, I mean that's the base class. So that's kind of the setting for the rest of what we talk about here. I mean, it's all really good. Pretty, well, it's mostly pretty good mechanically in combat. I will keep coming back to that idea that just the fact that there's nothing even discussed for out of combat just disappoints me a good amount, except for I guess
Yeah.
their 18th level ability that we didn't talk about, just that if your strength check is less than your strength score, you can use that score in place of the total. I mean, that's good, especially if you're just basically getting a 20 on all of your strength checks. That's cool,
Sure.
but
Okay.
it's 18th level, so
Yeah.
you don't get points for that.
Right.
And you also don't get any points for Path of Berserker.
No. Yeah, so there are 2 subclasses that came out of the player handbook. The Path of the Total Warmer, that Path of the Totem Warrior and Path of the Berserker. And let's put a pin in the mechanics for a second. Flavor-wise, they do a good job of giving you 2 options to focus on the 2 different aspects of what a barbarian is that we talked about. One focuses heavily on the rage aspect of it and like really, really turning that up to 11, like role play wise. The other one focuses on the shun civilization. They're part of a tribe. They're one more with nature aspect of it. And I think as the player handbook subclasses should do, it does a good job of like letting you pick. All right, what does this barbarian want to have a focus on? So
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So Path of the Berserker, though, I mean, it very famously the mechanics are they're shit. It's
Yeah.
just like, ugh,
Yeah, I mean,
it's so disappointing.
It says a lot that the Path of Berserker and the Totem Warrior are on the opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of strength and subclasses, even to this day, where Berserker is still viewed as one of the worst in the entire subclass options,
Yep.
and Totem Warrior is still viewed as one of the best. That to me
Yes.
shows that they just did not fully understand how to make these subclasses for barbarians early on.
Yes. So I do love the flavor sentence, the very first flavor sentence for Path of the Berserker. For some barbarians, rage is a mean to an end, that end being violence. The Path of the Berserker is a path of untrammeled fury. I had to look that word up, slick with blood. As you enter the Berserker's rage, you thrill in the chaos of battle, heedless of your own health and well-being. And their main thing is frenzy. When you get it right away at 3rd level, when you pick it, when you rage, you could choose to go into a frenzy rage. And if you do, for the duration of your rage, you can make a single melee weapon attack as a bonus action on each of your turns after this one. When your rage ends, you suffer 1 level of exhaustion.
We've talked about this one
Is-
so much on
yeah.
like different episodes and everything that
But this is the retrospective.
I know.
About it.
Yeah, but
Because I have nothing to link people to. Like these have been side tangents in other episodes. So
I link you to our back catalog anytime barbarians are mentioned.
yeah, our 146 episodes. Have at it. Find it. Hundreds of hours of content, possibly thousands.
I will summarize my thoughts on it rather quickly. the fact that this is not baked into the class as itself and that you have to like choose to enter into it in addition means that and that there's obviously a cost to it means that this is just kind of a really big cost and is just oddly worded in the first place. But the fact that that cost is exhaustion is where things absolutely fall apart to me, because the first level of exhaustion is that you have disadvantage on all ability checks, which is the one thing barbarians already aren't good at. You're making them absolutely worse at it. And the additional attack as a bonus action really doesn't feel strong enough to get over the fact that you could potentially kill yourself by doing this too many times
Right.
in a day.
And then the second level, so if you do it twice, the speed is halved.
Yeah, and it just
And
gets worse.
exhaustion doesn't just go away from a long rest. So if you have 2 levels, that's 2 long rests to get it away. And then third level is like the character's ruined for the day. Disadvantage on attack rolls and saving throws. Having a barbarian have that all day is just awful. For what, one bonus action attack? You could just like offhand a weapon and do that anyways.
Yeah, it's not going to be as
Um,
strong because maybe it's not your
no,
D12, but
yeah,
it's
but you're not getting exhaustion and
You know
stuff.
what
And
my favorite
also,
part
it's
is?
rate.
It's a
What?
bonus
Same thing.
action. Why?
Yep.
You can't even do that out of the gate. That sucks.
oh
Just
yeah,
make
that's
it.
right. It's
Yeah.
not when
Come
you
on.
rage.
Yeah, because it's a bonus action to rage. So then you do this, and then yeah, it's the starting the next turn, you get your extra attack. It's so bad. It's like flavor wise, I liked the idea of it. A subclass that's
Yeah,
focused on just like really turning up that rage, and they get frenzied and all this cool stuff, and it's just it falls so flat.
yeah.
It's so
I know things
disappointing.
we've talked about, like ways to make this less horrible in the past. One big one to me is allowing them to do the frenzy up to their proficiency bonus, and past that you gain a level of exhaustion, so that it makes it so that at some point they kind of have the choice to gain a level of exhaustion, but
Yeah.
up to that point you get it for free. Also potentially being able to melee, or sorry, to make that weapon attack as part of the rage as well, so you don't have to wait
Yes.
until the second round to get
I
that
was
extra
gonna
attack.
say, yeah, add in as part of the bonus action to rage, and using your bonus action on any subsequent turns, you could do blah blah blah. Yeah. The other stuff that gets okay, it's just really situational. It's like spineless rage. They can't be charmed to frighten while raging, which is like to me
Hey,
that should be a baked in feature.
Yeah, that
It's
would have been pretty
yeah,
useful last turn.
just like
Or
in the
last
core
session.
space, yeah,
But
and this
yes,
is like the core class,
that
yeah,
that's how I've always felt. I mean, a lot of these berserker features feel like they could have been in the core class, which is a testament to how much they are just a branching of the base flavor. But it does almost kind of hurt the main class that some of these weren't. It almost feels like somebody had the base barbarian class and they're like, oh no, we need to make a subclass, and like started pulling things out of it to make
all
this
right,
frenzy barbarian.
yeah, yeah. Intimidating presence is they can frighten someone while they're raging. I think it's when they're raging.
using their charisma score.
Oh
Oh, that's
yeah,
so
DC 8 plus proficiency plus charisma. Yeah, yeah. They don't need to be raging, but
yeah, but that is like that was a drunken decision. I don't know
yeah,
how that got through.
yeah.
So yeah,
It's not
overall,
good.
I mean, we won't spend
No,
much more time on it. But the
yeah,
Berserker is a showing of just that they did not know what how to balance the barbarian early on here.
right. Retaliation's cool though. We never talk about it because we always never get to it. But it's a
Sure.
14th level, and when you take damage from a creature that's within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to make a melee weapon attack against that creature. That's cool. I like
Yep.
that. But yeah, you need to wait to receive shit to get to it.
Yeah, and if you
Yeah,
were
it's
really
not worth
focused
it.
on that in particular, I would say just choose any other thing and get like Sentinel. Obviously, you're not going to get it every
Yeah.
single time, like Retaliation potentially will, but it gives you a chance to do a lot of reaction attacks.
Yep. All right, and then the next subclass, though, Path of the Totem Warrior, as we already hinted at, is great, and this is the one where it focuses on the kind of the living in the wilds in a tribe, one of nature aspect of
Yeah,
it.
and
And
Bear
go on.
Totem. Oh, no, you can go ahead. You're going to give more flavor stuff. Sorry.
Actually, I lost my train of thought.
Oh no, I'm sorry. All right. Uh, yeah, and this one, mechanically speaking, you'll hear about the Barbarian probably the most, because it's while raging you have resistance to all damage except psychic damage. The spirit of the bear makes you tough enough to stand up to any punishment. So you have these options to choose as you level up which totem spirit you want to go with, either bear, eagle, or wolf. And you don't have to stick on the same path the entire time that you level up. You can either do different ones, or you can say, hey, it's part of my character to just be bear spirit, so I'm sticking with the bear spirit. But
Yeah.
the other ones I feel like kind of get brushed under the table because they're not as standout as the bear, but they're still
They're
pretty
actually still
useful
really
as well.
solid.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, Eagle, while you're raging, other creatures have disadvantage on opportunity attacks, and you can use the dash action as a bonus action.
which is
And then
huge for the barbarian.
yeah, for sure. And then the wolf, while you're raging, your friends have advantage on melee attack rolls against creatures within 5 feet of you. That's definitely a party dependent one, but can also be really cool. I wouldn't even necessarily say bear is better than those. It's just what sort of character you want to play. If you're trying to play like the tank that just takes the punishment, yeah, the bear is what you pick. If you want to play that barbarian that's like more nimble and weaving in and out of battle, you pick eagle. If you play the one that's like the leader of their tribe and they bolster their allies, wolf. Like they're all really good for that and very flavorful. And I love, and I we bring this up in retros a lot, and when we talk about what makes things better, the choice. I
Yes,
love how every time you get a thing in this, you get a choice of what direction you want to shape your character in.
and they even added
And
more later.
Yep.
they did, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, they're
What's that in?
forgettable.
Yeah,
Skag.
so that's an okay.
It's in the
So
Skag, and then it's in Xanathars. They reprinted it.
that's it. Okay, we'll just talk about it.
Yeah,
Xanathars then.
that's fine.
We can skip scare.
Oh,
So of course,
Side
we can do
tangent.
a
that's
brief talk about it.
fine.
On the Barbarian, we mentioned this when we were going through Monsters of the Multiverse. They're starting to add force damage to just random shit. And our only guess
Ah,
was, is this to fuck with barbarians? And
yeah.
we still don't know, but it
Maybe.
still does make the bear got better with Monsters of the Multiverse.
Does it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I
because
guess
yeah,
you're right.
they're still resistant to force. It's just psychic that they're not.
Right, but all of the damage that before would have been, not always, but a lot of times was bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing that was magical is now just force instead, which gets around a normal barbarian's rage. So
Right.
that's where you're saying there's a huge change. And yeah, I don't want to get into that too much because I know we did talk about that on our Multiverse episode,
Yeah.
and that's a horrible change, and I dislike it.
Another really cool thing about Totem Warrior is the level 6 ability aspect of the beast is out of
Out of
combat crap.
combat.
And again, you get the choice of bear, eagle, or wolf, and the things you get are out of combat utility, and it is so needed, and I love it that it's
Yep.
there. And
Yeah, I mean,
again,
it's nothing overly powerful or even worth talking about too long, but yeah, I'm glad they did something. Now that said, with 10th level, you get another out of combat thing. It's the ability to commune with nature as a ritual, and I guess I don't know how I feel about that too much because it's a 10th level ability. We already talked about how 11th level for the barbarian isn't particularly strong, and all that they get is a single 5th level spell that's kind of situational. I know that I shouldn't sit here comparing a barbarian to a full caster, but at 10th level, a full caster has 2 5th level spells and a whole lot of options as to what they are casting. So it almost feels like this is just like not hitting the mark for me in terms of being an actually good subclass ability.
sure. Also, we would be remiss of saying not mentioning Spirit Seeker. You get it at their level, and you can cast Beast Sense and Speak with Animals as a ritual.
Oh,
More
I
out of
totally
combat
did
stuff
miss
right
that.
away. Yeah. It's not like it looks like it's tucked in under the flavor text, and it doesn't have like a level thing on it. You just until the second sentence, so it doesn't stand out. But yeah, so more out of combat stuff. Yeah, being able to pick between bear, eagle, and wolf is really great in terms of like how you kind of want to shape your character and what those animals mean to you. There's some flavor text talking about how when you rage, you might physically embody these in some way, grow like thick fur on you that seems to appear, or you have like eagle eyes, like literal, eagle eyes, things
Right.
like that. Just some cool stuff and like a lot of baked in flavor, character choice. Love it all.
Yeah. I will say with the up to the 14th level stuff, it does start to get a little bit less impressive to me in terms of just abilities, but it still is pretty good. Well, at least the bears isn't too good, but Bear is while raging, any creature within 5 feet of you that is hostile to you has disadvantage on attack rolls against targets other than you or another character with this feature, and enemies immune to this if they can't be frightened. So,
It's a way to tank, but 14th is really, really late for that.
right, right.
That's, yeah.
And the eagle one, I actually like a lot. It's while raging, you have a flying speed equal to your current walking speed. Only works in short bursts, though. So if you're in the air at the end of your turn, you just fall. I do wish there was something in there. If it literally just added that if you fall, you can land on your feet instead of prone, that would be awesome to me, because I love
Sure.
the idea of them just like doing these superhuman jumps and just landing. And it's like, oh, you take 3d6 bludgeoning damage. And they're like, I'm raging. I don't care.
Right.
But falling prone at the start of every single one of your turns because you flew up and tried to take 2 attacks at the dragon is a silly way to handle it.
Sure. All right, should we move on to... So that's player handbook. Should we move on to Sword Coast Adventure?
Yes, really
Okay.
quickly.
All right, so next up then, after the next release at the player's handbook that updated the Barbarian any way, shape, or form was the Sword Coast Adventure Guide. It's now technically, I think, like not official, but the class is still there. And
Yeah, it's not Adventure League
whatever.
legal.
Right, most of the flavor in here is specific to the Sword Coast, so we're going to skip that because it's not just helping our general discussion. They get a new primal path, new subclass. This is Path of the Battle Rager. This one is saying dwarves only, but it's a Sword Coast thing, so you can very easily strip that off. I find their flavor weird. The Battle Ragers thing is they wear spiked armor, and so they use their spiked armor to hurt people while hurting them with their weapons. It's
Yeah.
like it's like it doesn't lean into like any of the aspects of what a barbarian is in any way. It doesn't enhance it. It's just like my flavor is around having special armor.
It could have been a fighter subclass and it wouldn't have felt any different. And that to me says
Yeah.
it wasn't very well differentiated.
Yeah.
But it does have at least one, interesting thing. I mean, so it's got like the Battle Rager armor. People who hit you can take some damage, and or you can use a bonus action to like make an additional attack. Grappling people gives them additional damage. But then it has one neat idea, the Reckless Abandon, which is beginning at 6th level. When you use Reckless Attack while raging, you also gain temp HP equal to your Constitution modifier. They vanish if any of them are left when your rage ends. That I actually really like as a Barbarian mechanic, because it does just give you another way to kind of continue being tanky and incentivizes Reckless Attack. Maybe too much, you could argue, but I like the way that plays out.
Yeah, that is cool. I like that as well. Worth noting though, their main thing, the Battle Rager armor, where they can make the attack. It's really similar. Actually, no, never mind. I was gonna say it's really similar to the Frenzied Rage, but
it only does
the
1d4.
damage is super low. It's 1d4
Yeah.
piercing damage. It's basically like they're offhanding with the dagger. It's no different.
Yeah.
When you're wearing your spiked armor and raging, you could use a bonus action to make a melee weapon attack with the armor spikes against target within 5 feet of you. If it hits, it deals 1d4 piercing damage.
Yeah, I mean, you can use like a two-handed weapon and such though. So I mean, there's at least that idea, and it still gets your rage damage, which is important.
I like the flavor.
But no, it's not.
But so would an offhand too. What was that, Will?
I like the flavor of it more than like, oh, just an offhand. You like bonking someone with your hammer, and then you like shoulder check them with your spiked armor.
Yeah,
it's cool. It's not very good, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then where I mixed up is at 14th levels, that spiked retribution. When a creature within 5 feet of you hits with a melee attack, the attacker takes 3 piercing damage if you are raging. 3 piercing damage at 14th level just isn't really enough to be worthwhile.
No, and I don't know, I had to be raging for that.
Because if you're not mad, then your pointy spikes don't hurt.
Yeah.
But that is officially, that was never reprinted. So this one is officially just like...
it was never reprinted?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, like I can kind of see why, like I said, in terms of like what a barbarian is and like shaping that discussion, it adds nothing.
Yeah.
It's a good NPC, but it's
okay,
pretty weak.
Sure. Okay. I can see that.
I honestly like it like that. Just like a dwarvish barbarian, the literally axe idiot is in the flavor. It's just a silly character you can throw into campaigns, I think.
Sure. Then also in Sword Coast Adventure, and these are reprinted Xanathars, but we can talk about them here.
Sure.
Or was it Tasha's? Xanathars.
It don't matter.
Okay. Yeah, the Totem Spirits, as already mentioned, for the totem, Path of the Totem Warrior, you pick the bear, eagle, or wolf. They added 2 more for each one, elk or tiger. They just each have their own thing, which
Yeah,
I appreciate the more choices.
but they
I don't
suck.
think they're super great. Like
No,
elk
they're
is when you're
bad.
raging. Yeah, your walking speed increases by 15 feet. For tiger, 10 feet to your long jump distance and 3 feet.
Yeah,
I forgot about how
that's
crappy that
literally
is.
it. They
And three
took
feet to your
Tiger.
high jump.
They could have added some like pounce attack or something, but they
Yeah,
decided
no,
that can't come on until 14th level. Sorry. Like the Tiger
yeah,
ability really feels like they should have taken leave the 3rd level, take the 14th, put that at 3rd level,
yep.
and we'd have been fine.
Yeah, it is quite literally like a pounce attack, which you see a lot of beast staff. You move them 20 feet straight line towards, get extra stuff when you hit. That is neat, but yeah, 14th is pretty late for it. So
Yeah, the elk one at 14th isn't too bad. Bonus action during your move to pass through a space of a large or smaller creature. Creature must succeed a strength saving throw, and this time it uses your strength, not your charisma or something weird. You can knock the creature prone, and they take bludgeoning damage equal to 1d12 plus your strength modifier. Now, that doesn't get your rage damage, which makes it a little bit less interesting to me, but still, at least 1d12 plus strength is good, and you knock them prone. Yeah, it's all right.
but yeah, in terms of Sword Coast Adventure Guide, I don't really have anything else to say on it. So I'm
Nope.
going to move on to the next release that impacted Barbarians, Xanathar's Guide to Everything. This was, of course, a big one, as it was for all classes, because basically every one of them got 3 subclasses. I guess
Yeah.
in this place, yeah, three subclasses, because Battle Rager wasn't a reprint. So
Yep. So we saw
it does.
Ancestral Guardians, the Storm Herald, and the Path of Zealot.
Yeah. It also does add some flavor, just kind of reiterating what a barbarian is. And then like for every class, Xanathars did a thing where it added like here's some tables to add some flavor. For barbarians, it's a personal totem, having special tattoos that mean something to them, or certain superstitions that they might have picked up from the wilds. Just little flavors to consider, nothing really worth diving into. All right, so Path of the Ancestral Guardian is a really cool one. I like this one a lot, and I think it does kind of explore and expand what a barbarian is, and mechanically, it's really great. Basically, it's saying they revere their ancestors and utilize their strength and knowledge within the rage and in their combat abilities. So this is kind of more on like living in the wilds outside of society with the tribe type thing, but it definitely doesn't have to be. You can also make this very easily like a spooky bend, kind of like a horror, like they're having ghosts
Yeah.
help them and stuff like that. And their main feature is ancestral protectors, which is really cool and really one of the first ways we started seeing actual true tanking coming online, like strongly discouraging things from attacking anyone else except for them, except for some like high level abilities in the player handbook that we talked about. So this is when you're raging, the first creature you hit with an attack on your turn becomes the target of these ancestral warriors, which hinder its attacks. Until the start of your next turn, they have disadvantaged any attack roll that isn't against you, and if they do go and attack and hit another creature that is not you, that creature has resistance to the damage dealt by the attack. And it ends if your rage ends. And so every time you hit something, it kind of marks them to really only attack you. And as a barbarian, that's what you really want. And pre this being here, there wasn't a good way to do that because as we've talked about, there's not up until more recently as they started adding features like this. There's not really great tanking in D&D because enemies could just like walk around you and go
Yep.
and hit someone else. There's no aggro, like you get in video games. There's like threat levels, things like that.
Yeah. So it's really cool. I love the flavor of it as well. I know we
Hmm.
had one of these at our table, and it was for a high level campaign as well, and it was so fun to watch their character just the barbarian abilities that come from this just feel just really unique. So absolutely love that. And Spirit Shield at 6th level just adds onto it, where if you're adds onto the tanking as well as just taking damage from people, which I guess is kind of true tanking.
Yeah.
So if you're raging and another creature that you can see within 30 feet of you takes damage, you can use your reaction to reduce that damage by 2d6, and that goes up to 3d6 at 10th and then 46 at 14th level. And I think we were doing like a 12th level campaign or something. Maybe it was higher. I don't remember. But the 3d6, 46 damage reduction as a reaction was very clutch. I remember.
Yep. And no limit on it except for your reaction, which is really cool. It's not like up to proficiency bonus, just like basically almost, and it's anything within 30 feet, so it's almost a guarantee every single round somebody is taking 3d6, 2d6, whatever, less damage.
Right. The 10th level, I was a little less excited about just because we're looking at once again some low at this point even lower level spells as 10th level features that are pretty situational. It's just a lot to put into a 10th level feature. I
Um,
don't. Oh, go ahead.
Clairvoyance is a really good spell for scouting. We definitely get a lot of use out of that when someone at the table has it. Where you can like set a little sensor somewhere, like see through and things like that. And I do like that just the design direction of giving them out of combat stuff.
Yep,
10th for these spells do seem a little late. I'll give you that. But 10th is kind of like a sleeper level, like a lower level for barbarians, anyways.
it is. I
That's,
don't know why,
yeah,
but yes, it is.
yeah,
And then the Vengeful Ancestors at 14th just powers up that Spirit Shield so you could deal the force damage back, and that also feels super nice. So
yeah,
just yeah, one of the better. I mean, I really love just about all the subclasses in Xanathars. This one though
yes,
is really great.
yeah. Next is Path of the Storm Herald, where it's basically the rages are embodied by the fury of storms and like the weather, basically, which I think is really cool as well. Another expansion on kind of what the barbarian can be and sort of unlocking, exploring this new area, and I think it handles that well. The mechanics line up beautifully with the flavor, just like for the ancestral one they do, but they're just kind of a
They're
little weak, I
middling.
think. They're
Yeah,
middling, yes. Middling is a good way to put it. Their main thing is a storm aura, where when they rage, the storm aura activates, and then they can use a bonus action on subsequent turns to reactivate it. And they get to pick, so choices, I love it, said it before. And desert, sea, or tundra. And obviously, like, pick a. I would. You do, actually, you are stuck with whichever one you picked. With Totem Warrior, you could change it up. Pick bear first time and wolf next time. This one you're locked into it because the other ones say based on what you picked for Storm Aura. So something to keep in mind.
right.
Um, these are things like this is where we're talking like they're middling. So the desert when it's activated, so when you rage and then if you spend a bonus action, and everybody, all creatures in your aura, which is
30
10
feet,
feet from you,
10 feet.
10 feet, take 2 fire damage. And it increases to 3 at fifth. And, like it's automatic damage. It cannot be like there's no save or anything like that. But it's all creatures, so including friendlies, and it's not a lot for like your whole bonus action.
Yeah, desert in particular, I think is the worst of the bunch, just because it's really awkward if you're having any other melee party members. Either you have to activate it before they're next to you, or you have to do something where you move to a position where you can activate it, and then you move more to where your party is. And I just don't love that one. But C actually does feel okay to me. I mean, it's you as a bonus action, target makes a dex saving throw. They take 1d6 lightning damage on a failed save or half as much on a successful. So you still have some guaranteed damage. It's single creature instead of multiple. So all right, whatever. That's different, but I think
Mm-hmm.
the scaling on it takes a little bit longer, and that feels really
2d6
awkward to
at
me.
10th. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a
that's pretty late.
long time, and if they've already accepted that the level that the I guess effects of these need to be at different points, because again with desert it's at like 5th level and then 10th level and then 15th. This could have been at 7th level, it goes to 2d6, at this it goes to that, but overall just a little bit messy there, I'll say.
Yeah. One thing to note that's cool though that I like the DC is based off your Constitution. You're not going to
Yes,
like Wisdom or something. That would make no sense.
a
Like that's a
lesson had been
charisma.
learned.
Yes.
And then Tundra
Um,
just gives temp HP, so let's
two
other
temp hit points
people.
to anyone you want.
Yeah,
It's
so
it's
as
just super low. Like the free temp hit points are nice. I keep refreshing them. That one I'm right on the fence about because I could see like topping people off temp hit points every time.
it's
It's
you
essentially
too.
lowering everyone's damage by
Yeah, I
two
mean,
points. Like
it's
it
you as
adds
well.
up.
That's where it comes in for
Yeah.
me, is because that's now effectively 6 HP while raging at 5th level, or 8 HP at 10th. Is it amazing? No, but I mean it's every turn. So free HP every single turn. It it can be difficult to balance that too, or without it going overboard. A small amount, it just seems like kind of a nice little bump up every time.
Yeah. Then at level 6, they give you an always on ability based on desert, sea, or tundra. You don't have to be raging. It's a resistance to an appropriate damage type, and then something flavorful. Desert, you can like touch a non something that's like a flammable object that is being water carried and lighted on fire. C gives you swimming speed, which is actually really cool.
And breathe
Ten-
underwater.
yeah, yeah, and oh yeah, I missed that. Wait, where does this? Oh yeah, that's cool.
Whereas say it in like the two
Yeah, I see it.
sentences that are
Yeah,
in the
I
proceed.
was looking for you gain a swimming speed of 30 feet and breathe
Yeah.
underwater, and
Yeah.
it's actually in the you gain resistance to lightning damage and breathe underwater. You gain a like they should have whatever. It's not important. It's in there. I just didn't
This
read.
isn't the pedantic retro. This is
Yeah.
the full retro.
And like Tundra, the cold damage resistance and resist extreme colds, and you could turn 5 foot cube of water into ice.
Can make
Little
everyone's
flavorful
drinks
things.
cold.
Yeah.
It
Be
melts
a
in a
big drink.
minute. You're just gonna ruin the drink.
That is actually really quick for a 5-foot cube to melt. That's
It is
ridiculously fast. So yeah, I mean, just some out of combat stuff, which is nice. The resistance portion is nice. The fact that it's, you choose one and it's kind of stuck with you the whole time. Fire would officially be just statistically the best one to take, but I don't think any of these is particularly bad. Maybe lightning. I just don't see lightning coming up that much, but the ability to breathe underwater and gaining a swim speed, it all feels pretty well balanced.
Right.
This has the ranger problem where you pigeonhole yourself into an environment, and as soon as you leave the environment, the character feels weird. So this makes sense if you're the desert barbarian or the seafaring barbarian or the tundra barbarian.
Yeah, I don't think you would break this class by saying on a long rest you can change. I mean, if that's the
interesting.
flavor of your character is that you harness the power of the weather and it changes based on what is most situational.
That's
I
why
think it's
I
still
start
in flavor.
disliking it. I
Really?
don't like weather barbarian. I like the idea of like a honed barbarian from a harsh environment. Weather barbarian just is kind of weird and cringe.
That's fair. That's fair. There's probably a better way of putting it that would make you less disgusted by it, but I understand that when I say things, you usually just have a negative reaction off the rip.
That's because they're bad. No, what I would say is you could probably craft an elemental barbarian out of these constituent parts, but it would be you'd have to chop it up a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And at 14th, it just boosts that you get additional effects when you're raging with the aura, which we don't need to read through them or anything.
Yeah. Is it worth mentioning the 10th, just that you can give other people resistance to your damage? Because that's kind of nice. I mean, in terms of the 10th level ones, being able to grant that resistance out can be very useful, especially if you find yourself in a situation against, you've got desert, you're up against a dragon that breathes fire. It's like a paladin's aura in that way when you're like, everybody group up, we need some resistances.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
And then the DM's like, just getting the red dragon's a poison dragon this round. Idiots all standing in a 10-foot circle.
Right. All right, and the last subclass in here is Path of the Zealot, which another really great one. This is one they're zealots to a god. This is taking the religious aspect incredibly far, and they fight in this like ferocious battle fury for their gods. It's pretty open flavor wise, so this could be like they're in the wilds and they have their gods they worship and there's outs to them, or could easily be someone as part of civilization.
Or like I have this pretty good idea for a character. It's a zealot barbarian who really wants to die but has been unable to. Like the gods won't grant them that release. It's I just came up with it. I don't know. You can use it if you want.
I love it.
Yeah.
they view their combat actions as ways to prove themselves to the god. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. You get pretty deep with that. That is what Will is playing right now, Grignir. And yeah, the Zealot Barbarian has been a blast to have at the table. I mean, not just from the fact that, Will, you're fun to have at the table. Surprise, surprise. But just a lot of these abilities do feel like they come up. And some of them haven't come up yet for the best, but the Divine Fury is one that is basically every turn while raging. The first creature you hit on each of your turns with a weapon attack takes extra damage equal to 1d6 plus half your barbarian level. I think that scales pretty well. I mean, the plus half your barbarian level, it doesn't say rounded up or down, does it? I guess it's just
I
I
rounded
think
was
it
down
rounds
because
dumb.
it's
down.
yeah. If it doesn't say, it's just rounds down. The extra damage is either necrotic or radiant, so you can either have good gods or evil gods, your choice. I like this from a lot of aspects because not only is it giving extra damage, which is cool and all, but the fact that that damage type isn't bludgeoning or piercing or whatever does give you a way to get around magical resistances, especially early on, and that's kind of nice just to have something to do that because otherwise barbarians just don't if the DM doesn't give them a weapon that's magical.
Yep.
Warrior of the
And
Gods is kind of their big thing. Sorry, cutting you off.
no,
Kind of the
I'm
big
just
thing
moving on to
is
it too.
if a spell such as Raise Dead has the sole effect of restoring you to life, but not undeath, the caster doesn't need material components to cast that spell on you. So the idea that it's really easy to bring them back because they are fighting for their gods. They're like, nah, this one's free. Put it on our tab. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I love that, especially because like raised spells can get really expensive. Revivified's 300 gold, raised at is 500 gold. You could, in theory, get a free true resurrect,
Yeah. I mean, it's
which is
just a
pretty
spell slot.
nuts.
You have to find a ninth level spellcaster, but yeah.
Sure,
But
but
that's a
I
lot
said in
cheaper.
theory. I said in theory. I said
Yeah.
in theory. Yeah.
Yeah. Fanatical Focus, being able to re-roll a saving throw while raging is really nice, especially if there's effects that barbarians aren't good at. The mental ones I hear they're pretty bad at. Probably want
Yeah.
to save it for that type of saving throw.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's a once per rage, not like a once per long rest or anything. So that's nice.
yeah. Zealous Presence is pretty darn good too. So, and this is one of the only 10th level abilities where it's not more a ribbon than it's pretty worthwhile. So you learn to channel divine power to inspire zealotry in others. As a bonus action, you unleash a battle cry infused with divine energy. Up to 10 creatures of your choice within 60 feet of you that can hear you gain advantage on attack rolls and saving throws until the start of your next turn. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. That is party dependent, I will say, because it scales up in terms of how many members you have in your party and how many make melee attacks. If you're a barbarian in a 9-person wizard party, this isn't too good. Besides the saving throw aspect. But in our current campaign, this is going to be very, very strong once you all get to 10th level because everybody has attack rolls.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
getting advantage on that, and of course the saving throws. It can be hard to time this one correctly. I do wish that it was on a reaction instead of a bonus action, so like a saving throw being the thing that triggers it. But some monsters, you just know a saving throw is going to come up, and the higher level things go, the more likely it is and the more deadly they are.
Mm-hmm. Rage Beyond Death is really interesting. Where it's kind of like another take of the Berserker one, where if they hit zero, they don't go down. While you're raging, having 0 hit points doesn't knock you unconscious. You still make death saves and you suffer the normal effects of taking damage while it's 0 hit points. However, if you would die due to failing death saving throws, you don't die until your rage ends, and you die then only if you still have 0 points. So the effects of taking damage at 0 points is like it's a crit. If it hits, it's a crit, and then it is
Two
two death
fails.
fails.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're up there fighting. You're still going to be getting hit. You're going to get to your death fails very quick, and so you're essentially a walking corpse, but you're still going.
You're not a walking corpse. You're a
Is
swinging
that-
corpse.
Yeah, and you die then only if you still have 0 hit points.
Yeah.
So would that mean, let's say you get hit a bunch and you fail all your death throws and you would be dead, but then while you are still raging in combat, someone comes up and heals you.
Yes.
You're good. That's how
Yep.
you take that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really cool. That is how you do this feature. This feels like it's patching the Berserker, whatever it is.
Yeah, I forget.
The one in the player handbook, the crappy one. Yeah.
Yes, at like yeah. So and this pairs well at 15th level as well when they have Relentless Rage, because right now one way to knock them out of Rage Beyond Death at 14th is you stun them, you get them out of rage in whatever way possible. But at 15th, it's like you can stun me, but I'm still mad, so I'm not dying.
Yeah, rage. It's powerful. It's flavorful. It's fun. It's like tense moments for the table of like trying to desperately get healing on him before.
And the barbarians out of
before
rage
they-
or out
yeah.
of range and just won't come back, and you're like, please, you're going to die, and they're like,
yeah,
nope,
like
still
literally gonna
mad.
drop dead. Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool.
Got to keep in mind that they can still die to I'll just say saving throws in general. that doesn't mean dex saving throws, but a disintegrate still kills them.
Okay.
So just things to keep in mind. It doesn't just ignore any damage. If you get disintegrated and you're at 0 HP, you turn to dust.
Right.
So no, but true resurrection, you just at 14th level, that's actually pretty obtainable. So
And it's free.
Yeah.
And the
and it's
barbarian has advantage on the save against disintegrate.
That's true.
Yeah.
Very true. So it's interesting too. So this is a side tangent. Just the character that you've set up, Will Grignir, whole freaking character arc seems to be leading to like, I want to die. I want to be able to die. And like the longer that you go on, the harder that's going to be able to accomplish. Like,
I'm assuming you did that on purpose because that's
That
like
is the
really
exact
great.
flavor. It's the interesting juxtaposition of how hard is it to kill Grignir, even at level 7. It
right.
Yeah.
just he
It's
keeps
been
getting back
weird.
up.
It's been very difficult. Very, very difficult. Not that I'm like specifically focusing on you and trying to specifically kill you outright, but I can't imagine once we get to the later levels that it's, I don't know. We'll have to talk about it. Like,
Yeah. And then we get in a weird situation like if you die, your character dies. Do we try and drag you to somewhere to get you raised? I guess you could ignore it. Like all of those, like if the soul is willing, so
yeah,
you
and
don't have to.
that'll be interesting
Yeah.
too, because you'll have to decide that from your character perspective, I think, because
Yeah.
if you really do want to say that the gods still have not accepted you, you haven't done enough yet. Like, think of how frustrating that would be. It's like, no, I've been dead for 3 days. Let me stay dead.
Right.
Nope, you haven't earned it yet.
All right, so that's everything in Xanathars, and as I said, I think we love all of them. They definitely expand on what the barbarian is, while still staying true to the flavor. They're not like out of left field, crazy stuff, patching it on. They don't feel like they're trying to replace broken stuff from the player handbook like they did with the ranger. I'm really happy with the barbarian in
Yeah,
Xanathars. I think they
I
did a really good job there.
I
No
totally
no
agree.
complaints, no notes except for Storm Herald is middling.
No, that, and still would like to see some more out of combat stuff, but
Yes.
that's more a general barbarian complaint.
It's
Yep.
worth noting that this is also the point where almost every class, including the barbarian, took the magic turn. It's
It's
before
true.
this, you were a barbarian, everything made sense. Now there's some magic going on. And we do have the superheroification of all classes.
Yeah, and that definitely continues on into Tasha's.
All right, the next release is Tasha's. Barbarians haven't got like a ton of like they've gotten no subclasses and like supplemental things that have come out. So they're kind of actually low on them. I think they're due for a few more. Tasha's has 2 in here. In addition to optional class features, we've talked to these in great detail. We have an episode on the optional class features and each individual primal path links at the top. Definitely worth checking out. Real quick though, I feel the wild magic one follows kind of the passive Xanathars. It's just another take on it. Um, Again, no notes flavor wise or all that mechanically. Like I said, we talked that to death. We're not going to have that conversation. And for Beast, we did talk about it before, but I reiterate it here because we're talking about everything in the context of like the thick grade of barbarian. This one feels like it steps a lot on the toes of Totem Warrior.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard to get away from
Flavor
that.
wise, yeah, it's hard to get away from that. But again, we talked about that in a lot of detail in that episode. And also Tasha's, it's the most recent, so it's not really retrospective material. So end of Tasha's talk.
Yeah, so then kind of taking a look at the barbarian as a whole. I mean, to wrap this all up, we've seen the changes. We've seen them kind of tighten up the mechanics, I think, to a really good spot in Xanathar's and in Tasha's. But let's kind of see more of what would you like to see. I mean, especially as this new D&D system gets closer and closer. What kind of things would we want to see in either just our perfect rework, maybe?
In terms of subclasses, I would like to see a subclass that really does get away from like they shun society aspects, because you can absolutely have a barbarian that is like part of society, do like the crime boss barbarian or something like that.
Sure.
like an urban barbarian,
No, that's
which
I think
sounds
good.
kind of crazy to say out loud, but
Um, yeah, I guess the
an
name of
urban
it does make it
barbarian. Yeah.
harder, and I know that like names are not being changed for classes. That comes up a lot,
No.
and like
Yeah.
you're like, oh, the paladin shouldn't be this. It's staying paladin. It's never going to
Yeah.
change. But that still does feel like there's room for it. I mean, it's just redefining what barbarian is, and I'm sure if we look at the differences between the last 4 editions, whatever, I guess you can include 3.5, the barbarian has most likely changed in bits and pieces as to what the flavor specifically is. So, saying that they shun society can still be a part of it. It's more the tribal aspect that maybe needs to be
Yeah.
taken out. So saying that they shun normal society, they stick to their specific ideals, are generally looked on as outsiders. Barbarian means outsider, and focus on that idea more than barbarian means uncivilized.
Yeah. That's a really good way to put that.
Otherwise, definitely would like to see more subclasses that are not magic based. That's just kind of a general feeling across the board. There's tons of fun
Yeah.
things you can do without going into that realm of you are a total superhero with crazy abilities that nobody else has. That's
Hmm.
I'll
We
keep
we
asking for that.
we talked about that in the fighter one as well.
Yeah,
The barbarians, I guess, less so than the fighters, because the barbarians, just, like I would say, Totem Warrior is magical.
yeah,
Like
that's true.
right off the bat, they
Yeah,
start with like, here's this kind of like spiritual, magical essence to them, and then it just kind of gets pulled through it. It's the frenzy, path of the frenzy, or like, frenzy is the name of the ability. Y'all know which one I'm talking about. That is really the only one that has no magic to it.
I would
The
kind of push back on that and say that what you get out of the path of the totem warrior is it's just very, very within the realms of possibility without magic. You can see better, you can carry more stuff, you can run faster, stuff like that. It's
Okay.
magic-ish, but it definitely got more magic when you started turning into the beast you emulate.
sure.
Right, or summoning your spirits to bother your foes, or divine, do radiant damage on your attacks. Okay,
Yeah, I mean,
that's
it's
that's all
to
fair.
to me, it's not as bad. It's not as egregious as the fighter with like the Echo Knight and everything. It's just like that just screams magic in every fiber of
Yeah,
its being. You could argue that the Wild
rune
Magic
warrior.
Barbarian does that, but it's
Yeah,
I don't know. It doesn't bother me as much with this, but I still just want to see more of the. I think the limitation could provide more creativity.
yeah. And the only other thing I would say is more out of combat stuff. And I
Yep.
mean, that comes up every time barbarians are talked about. Most martials, it's talked about. Barbarians are particularly bad at it. Um, because their core class is so solid. I think like a really good third level in combat ability, and then a solid third level out of combat ability, and then do, you know at that point, like they're solid. They're going to be okay in combat.
Yeah.
The future stuff can be, utility, social stuff, out of combat stuff,
Yeah.
whatever.
I
I,
had
I
an
don't
idea for
have like
one.
specific. Oh,
I
perfect.
yeah,
Yeah.
I thought of one that I was like super happy about. So it is loosely based on the bard's words the whisper bard's words of terror ability, which is that like in conversation they can frighten a creature, and this is like an enforcer style ability. So what I wrote is your overwhelming strength and presence make your allies' conversations go your way more often. At the start of a conversation, you may act as an enforcer. Choose any number of creatures up to your strength modifier. They all must make a wisdom saving throw against your save DC of 8 plus strength plus proficiency. On a failure, all attempts to intimidate or persuade these creatures by your allies have advantage for 10 minutes. If a creature succeeds on the saving throw, they're immune for 24 hours.
Did you say you wrote this or you found it somewhere?
I wrote this.
Okay. I like it. I'll
You
put that
seem
on
That's
the
hesitant.
screen.
I mean,
I,
it's one thing that I like
I
that needs the rest of the class.
yeah.
I like the direction. And it's what I
Yeah.
was kind of like thinking about, what I want to see, that urban kind of crime lord barbarian that we're like tossing around in our head is almost a mastermind or inquisitive themed barbarian. Like the rogue had those two classes that kind
Oh,
of leaned
yeah.
into a flavor and a set of ability checks and capabilities. I want to see that for barbarian. And then you could definitely get some real combat utility with like help based stuff, like you were saying.
Sure. Other thing that was
What?
like kind of more in combat I was thinking of was like I like the idea of the being able to kind of sort of push and pull the battlefield. The abilities like causing fear in a 30-foot radius so creatures don't move closer, but also the reverse effect, something that would like call creatures to the barbarian, like forcing them to move closer to them. Sounded like neat little ideas that give them more battlefield control and make up for those limitations like being unable to move close enough to something, or something being in the air and being able to like call it to them and forces the creature to move closer. Could be pretty neat and work really well with other things like, fireballs and such to set up for AoEs.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's more battlefield control.
Hmm.
More to
And
do than just ice swing and hit, or
Yes,
and choose reckless attack or not.
right.
so something to note is that I think one of our favorite things that we didn't bring up because it's on our third Kana is the new giant one. I thought knocked it out of the park, and that's probably one of my favorite UAs I've seen in a very long time.
Was that a giant barbarian
Yeah.
specifically? I'm trying
Yeah,
to remember
Path
which
of the
one it
Giant.
was.
You got
Okay,
like you could throw your weapons now. You
that
can
was
throw
it. It
people.
was the
It
ranged
was awesome.
barbarian. Yeah, that
Yep.
was really satisfying. That
Oh yeah. Okay,
I do want
that
to see
was
more.
really
That
cool.
that I think was originally teased. It felt like it was going to be released sooner, but now I'm wondering if that was more like super early for what's now going to be not sixth edition.
5.5 or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
one D&D.
Yeah. Overall, though, I think barbarians are a pretty solid class. Like, there's not huge gaps, again, except for the kind of the out of combat things to do out of it. A lot of that
Yeah,
comes down to though the role playing and like how impactful you want your character to be. But you're right, like up against wizards, they're not going to have the spells to do stuff outside of bashing things heads in. And some people hate it, other people don't care. Other people don't care. So
right. I mean, it's something that at the end of the day, if your barbarian does really care, then don't worry, you can just fix it yourself as the GM, which is the answer to every single problem in tabletops. So it's not that great, but yeah,
no,
I mean, giving them ways to do things out of combat is always an option. Magic items, this or that. It's something that you can do. I do wish it was
yeah,
more in the class
or
though.
multi-class barbarians are good multi-class candidates.
Well, if how
They
am I
can
supposed to
be.
know how to multi-class a barbarian? Who is going to
I-
teach me that?
If only there was some channel that focused on multi-classes, and maybe it's just a random thought, monsters of the week or something. Cool
That's
too. Yeah.
weird
Yeah. I
combination.
wonder if like that, like channel or podcast did every single two class combination in the game, and then end up discussion on every one of them,
That sounds
so
like
you
a
can kind of
waste
look
of their
through.
time. There's a lot of
It
bad
does. That
ones
sounds
out there.
like a
What would they
colossal
do
waste of
after
time
they
and effort.
finished all the multi-classes?
They probably just double down and keep redoing it until it gets so stale it gets runs into the ground.
You know what else is so stale it's gotten run into the ground? The code MM10 that you can use when you sign up for Describe, a website that allows you to provides you with finely crafted box text. I mean, we've talked about this so many times. I'm sure you're all tired of it, but I don't care because I want you to check it out. Describe, it really is super helpful for finding it. Our numbers are outdated here. It says offers over 1,400 scenes of places, monsters, and spells. They've got way more than that by now. I should probably check. But it's like providing box text that very easily slots into whatever you are looking for. I mean, even the other day, we had a party was walking into a Dow's lair, and I searched like cave lair, and had a beautiful description that was easy to put into my world. It didn't feel specific to anyone in particular, and it saves me a bunch of time because I am not a professional writer. But as Will said, you think this time around, maybe last different episode. Sorry, Ellie, it's a reference to another episode. We're not always good at describing things. Describing things is hard. We all suck at it, but Describe doesn't, and you can save 10% off the subscription using the code MM10. Thank you as always to our patrons, Ed G, Muddleweight, Brian H, Craig A, Isaac M, Jeff W, Star Shinobi, Vincent M, Bob F, Joe P, Rick D, Sensibly 20, Tyler S, Gray, Barons, Adam A, Rob K, and Gray. One day I will arrange those so it sounds like a rap. Today is not that day. So what else am I going to say? I'm going to say, make sure to... It's like a 90s rap. My name is Jared, and I'm here to
God.
say I really like Gray and Gray.
I think we're gonna
Please,
lose
if you are
patrons.
enjoying, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, let us know how you feel about the Barbarian. And if you want to support the show, head on over to monstersmulticlass.com/support, where you can find our Patreon, where we release episodes early, as well as have campaign write-ups and notes on the show and whatever else. So, thank you.
And as always, thanks for watching.